Hey WCMS, it's Katie.
And Tyler. The students of Webster City Middle School will be watching this at the conclusion of the Character Counts Day.
We're here in Washington, D.C. for our spring break in front of the White House.
Did you know the 5th graders went on a trip too?
No, let's go hear about it.
Hello WCMS, this is Gabe here. On March 4th, the 5th graders went to Iowa Central Community College in Fort Dodge. We got to make and learn all sorts of things. The subjects we learned about were criminal justice, science, art, human health, and engineering. For criminal justice, we learned about fingerprints. We touched a piece of paper and then put print dust on the paper so we could see our invisible fingerprints. In science, we made oobleck. It proved that an object can be both a solid and a liquid. In art, we made zentangles. They are pieces of paper we divided into thirds and took 3 shapes to fill each one. For engineering, we learned about magnetic conductors, combustion engines, and electric plating. And for human health, we put on a special lotion and went off to wash our hands. Once we were done with that, we went into a dark room and put a black light over it. The purpose of the field trip was to get us excited about college. Well, that's it for now. Let's pass it on to Jack.
Hello, it's Jack. After 10 weeks of learning about how to resist drugs and alcohol, we are ready to graduate. On March 11th, the 5th graders went to their graduation. While they were there, we got to hear some essays picked from each classroom. They were Cammie, Madison, Tyler, Leah, Elena, and me. We also got to hear from our guest speakers Pat Powers, all the teachers, Glenn Jaden, and our instructor, Sergeant Wardell, of course. Hopefully, we can all be responsible and not do drugs. Well, that's all for now. Off to the anchors.
Now we're here at the Capitol and we've seen the House of Representatives and many statues of people from each state.
Now let's go to the 6th grade and see about their trip.
Hi there, WCMS. Kavan here. Were you wondering what was happening just now? If so, I can answer that question for you. The 6th graders had to make videos with our iPads using an app called iMovie. We made these when we went to the Heartland Museum in Clarion. Our iMovies had to do with one of the many 1900s themed exhibits. We either had to make a movie or a trailer. Now, let's visit the creative thinker that created this next iMovie.
I'm at the local jail.
Oh, hey, WCMS. I'm Natalie, and I was just brainstorming ideas for my report on productive thinking. On March 3rd and 4th, the 6th graders went to Asbury Church and listened to a presentation on productive thinking led by Mrs. Brock. We practiced fluency and flexibility with an activity where we had to think of things that were long and thin. We had 3 minutes to think of as many things as possible, and in many different categories. Another thing we did was draw a skyline of a town. Each was an original design. Then we passed them out around the table, and we each drew details on each other's paper. This was elaboration. We also learned to scamper, which is an acronym for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to other uses, erase or eliminate, and rearrange. We did several activities to practice these. Now I have to get to work on my thinking, so let's pass it on to the anchors.
Now we have relocated to the front of the Holocaust Museum.
Speaking of the Holocaust, the 7th graders are learning about Germany.
It's going to be very emotional, so let's send it to them for some insight on the subject.
Hey, it's Caitlin.
And Cody here, reporting about 7th grade reading and geography. We are learning about Germany. We have many topics to choose from to learn and write about. We have to pick 2 topics such as food, effects of the Holocaust, Berlin Wall, leisure time, architecture, transportation, education, and economy. Using our notes from the video we watched, we had to write a paragraph for each topic. I wrote about leisure time and food. Now here's Caitlin to talk more about Germany.
In Germany, the Berlin Wall is very important in history. It was built in 1961 and was up for 28 years. After the Holocaust, the U.S., Great Britain, and France took the west side of Germany, and Russia took the east side. Russia built the Berlin Wall to keep the residents on their side because everyone wanted to go to the west side, the side of democracy and not communism. 150 people died trying to get over, and 1,600 people escaped. On November 9, 1989, the Berlin Wall was torn down with big smiles on the residents of East Germany's faces.
Now here's Jackson with news about the recent band and chorus concert.
Hi, I'm Jackson, here to tell you about the band and chorus concert held on Monday, March 10th. The concert was in the multi-purpose room and included 7th and 8th grade band and 7th and 8th grade choruses. The band played Firework, Summer Nights, and Thunder Bay March. The 7th grade chorus sang Counting Stars, Sing a Joyful Song, Build Me Up Buttercup, and Wake Me Up. The 8th grade chorus sang 4 of their own songs. My favorite song was Counting Stars. The band played well and the chorus sounded great. Now let's pass it on to the anchors.
Wow. Hey there, WCMS.
It's Alexis.
And Rocco. And we're here at the airport.
On March 14th, 25 8th grade students left for Washington, D.C.
While we've been here, we've seen the presidential and war memorials.
We also saw many of the Smithsonian museums, and we even got a tour of the White House.
Over the course of this trip, we have learned so much about the history of our country.
We sure are thankful to have had such an experience. That's just a few of the things we saw, and we got to tour with 8 kids from a school in Houston, Texas.
The weather here has been cold and snowy.
Speaking of weather, let's go to Grace to learn more about it.
Hey WCMS, it's Grace. We've recently moved on to our 3rd unit in science, weather. Every day in science, we record the weather using an app on our iPads. We record temperature, air pressure, wind speed and direction, and humidity. We've taken a test over mass, weight, and the names of the tools we would use to measure the things we record. Currently, we are studying how the tilt, revolution, and rotation affect the seasons and sunlight. We learned that solstices are the days where the sun crosses the equator, creating the most amount of sunlight on the summer solstice, June 21st, and the least amount of sun on the winter solstice, December 21st. Equinoxes are the days where there are an equal amount of both light and darkness. We just recently had the spring equinox on March 21st, and the fall equinox is on September 21st. I'm so happy the days are getting longer. Let's bring on over to the anchors.
We had quite the weather on this trip, 7 to 9 inches of snow.
By the time you see this, though, we will have already had a great character count today.
There will be a follow-up on that in the next show.
Track started March 24th.
Have a great rest of the week. From the middle.